Now, voting has also opened in New York City in the US, and voters can visit the South African consulate today and tomorrow to cast their ballot. And to talk to us more about this, we're now joined by SABC News Correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease in New York. Sherwin, I understand that your location is one of the very special voting stations that also opened today. Just tell us, how has voting been throughout today?
Well, the initial guidance we received from the Independent Electoral Commission in Bali was that voting would only happen on Saturday, the 18th in the United States. But we got word early today that the voting stations, both here in New York, in Washington, D.C., and of course the Consulate General in Los Angeles, are open and ready to receive voters due to a change from the IEC overnight. We'll get into that change a little bit later. But let me show you this. Do you remember this? Maybe not, because you might be a bit younger than me in Bali, but that is the Green ID Book of South Africa, issued to me in 1996, which I used a short time ago to vote in the national election. Essentially, voters abroad will only be able to cast ballots for who they want to represent them in the National Assembly. And of course, it's then based on the breakdown in terms of those votes that those parties in Parliament, those seats in Parliament, will eventually then elect the President of South Africa. So I voted. It's a smooth operating process in New York. They're ready for business. I spoke to the acting ambassador, Ismail Esau, in Washington, D.C. He said they've received about 25 votes to date. I was also on a call earlier with Tandile Sunduza, the Consul General in Los Angeles. They've had all but 9 votes so far. And she tells me that there was a big push from Jewish voters, in particular in Los Angeles, for voting to actually happen today. Because, as you well know, Jewish people observe the Shabbat, which is from sunset on Friday until sunset on Saturday. So that working out certainly for Jewish people, Jewish South Africans seeking to vote early. Joining me now, I'm going to speak to Pumeza Alberts. She's the Special Voting Officer. Her other job is Corporate Services Manager at the South African Consulate, but she's basically in charge of handling this process that's unfolding here in New York. Welcome to SABC News. The first question I have for you is, explain to me why we are allowed to vote today when earlier we were told we would only be voting on Saturday.
Thank you so much, Sherwin. Well, the reason is that it happened through the process of registration for South Africans who wish to vote either not in South Africa but abroad. And they received a confirmation via a VEC 10, which confirmed the dates of the 17 and 18. It was not the or, it was 17 and the 18 in that form. So we were flexible to actually operate within the midst of those dates, because we received our material, the IEC material, quite way advanced. And we received also quite great support from our head office and also the IEC team that, yes, indeed, we are to allow the voting polls to open on the 17th and the 18th.
So about 4,000 plus voters across the United States expected, about 1,500 in Washington, D.C., over 1,700 in New York, and about 800 in Los Angeles. Talk about the process. This is, you cannot vote in the provincial election abroad. This is a vote only for Parliament.
Yes, it is vote for only Parliament. Our ballot forms, they speak of, they've got the national vote, only that's the ballot voters documents that we received. So the process is folding as we speak, as you mentioned. So we are on the 10th floor in the building on 3rd Avenue between 52nd and 51. What we had done, since we're on the 10th floor in the high-rise building, we have a lobby. In the lobby, we also have officials that they will be doing the pre-registration of pre-checking, if I may put it in that way, with the list that we received from the IEC that had the voters to vote within the station. So what happens is that pre-check, they check if voters, they do have the ID, smart card, or the book, the one that you have showed, or the ETC, the one that you,
a temporary
ID,
yeah.
Sorry, not the emergency travel. Yes. So and then if the voter is eligible to actually vote, then they get ushered upstairs to the 10th floor, where we have step 1. Again, there's a pre-check whereby we cross, as how we had received through presentations from the IEC time and time or so. They've taught us to cross out the name of the voter.
My name was crossed out when
exactly.
before I
Then
came
you
in.
sign next to it, exactly that. And then moving on to the next table, which will be the ink marker, and then from the next table again, which will be the ballot. We'll be receiving your ballot, and then we'll explain to you further how you should fold your ballot. We've got 2 sets of envelopes. Envelope A, which your ballot needs to be within the first envelope, which is envelope A, and then you'll seal it. And then in the second envelope, it's called envelope B, where you'll fill in your name, your ID, and the mission that you're voting in, right? Then we move you to the booth process, and then from your casting the vote, you'll follow the process that we just explained to you,
right? And
then you'll cast a vote in the ballot box.
So essentially, they're 2 envelopes, right? And so you get your ballot paper, you vote, you then have to put your ballot into envelope A. Seal that envelope, then put that sealed envelope into envelope B, on which you have to write your name, your ID number, and the location at which you voted. This is causing a little bit of controversy. I remember covering the election 5 years ago. This caused some consternation, but this will be a very transparent process. Explain how these envelopes will be opened before the votes are counted.
Okay. Now, what we are in charge of here in the mission is that we do not open the ballots. We don't count any ballots within the mission. Everything gets counted in head office in Pretoria. So what we do is we'll transport we do have a service provider that's appointed to come through after all the ballots have been sealed, and how they demonstrated to us exactly how to seal it, and then the counting will happen in Pretoria, where the envelope A and the envelope B will be delinked completely, and then the counting will only. This is the process. It's for completeness, where they are double checking if the voters within this mission were. All of them are allowed to vote.
Right.
As per, they will check on the envelopes that it's actually linking and corresponding to each other, and then they will start delinking the actual envelopes, counting the envelopes.
So they take the top envelope, discard that, and then that goes into the counting pile. Final question for you.
No.
Are we expecting party agents to come through and monitor the process here?
Yes, we have received confirmation from head office that party agents will be coming through. So far, we have received only 3 names, and they have not confirmed from which party yet. It's only just 3 names that have been forwarded to us. And that process as well will follow due process in terms of them filling in the appropriate forms, and then also will be identifiable when they are here. Yeah.
Pumeza Alberts, thanks very much indeed for coming through and speaking to us. Pumeza Alberts, of course, the special voting officer here at the IEC voting station in New York, also the consulate general to South Africa. Of course, missions open in Washington, D.C., in Los Angeles, about 4,000 voters expected over the next 30 hours in Bali. So we have 6 hours today until 9 p.m. tonight in New York. Again, from 7 a.m. tomorrow in New York until 9 p.m. on Saturday. The same in Washington, D.C. And then from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. In Los Angeles. So a lot of time for a very small number of voters to come through and cast their ballots in the national poll to elect parties to the National Assembly, who will then subsequently vote for the president. So that's a little snapshot from New York. We'll be here most of the day tomorrow. We'll see more of us when we chat again tomorrow in Bali.
All right, Sherwin, thank you so much for that update. That's our US correspondent there, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, just giving us an update. And as you heard, of course, they were only expecting to cast their ballot from tomorrow. But of course, those unique voting stations, some in the US as well as in the UK, being allowed to cast, or voters being allowed to cast their ballots from today. And of course, Sherwin will continue to be giving us that update throughout the weekend.